Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with a review of the other of these crazy weird bootleg figures that I recently was able to acquire from Hikigane Creatures. This is the more, guess, T-Rex-ish version, but it's just like the Indominus one. It's kind of like a mashup of numerous Mattel figures all kind of like crammed into one, which is really, really weird. But you can see it is in pretty much the same packaging and everything as we had seen in the last figure. And then if we turn it around here to the back, you can see Collect Them All, which shows both of the different versions of these crazy, crazy dinosaur figures. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So here it is, and you can see, of course, we're looking at it from the same angle we had before. And yep, just as I expected, once we turn it around, we are met with screw holes. Again, though, it looks kind of fun for what it is. It's absolutely an interesting figure, and you know, a little different from your average knockoff. Like, I've been reviewing quite a few Mattel knockoffs here on the channel over time, and some of them can be fun at times, some of them can be pretty awful at times. This one, I don't know for sure quite yet, but I would put probably into the fun category. You can see, looking here in the head sculpt, it's got some nice variations of greens. We have a little bit of like a darker shade. It's still fairly light, but a little bit of a darker shade up there for the top of the head. And as you move down, you've got a really vibrant green here that runs along the jawline and then moves back into the body. The skin texture looks okay, but in some areas a little generic, other areas a little washed out, but there is alright skin detail for the most part. As you move up and over the top of the snout, it does get severely washed out, which we can see. Like, there's actually areas where I don't really see much in the way of skin texture at all. We do have a different tone of color, kind of like a light tan for the lower jaw. I think the skin texture actually looks better down here on the lower jaw, surprisingly. There's also kind of like a, I don't know if I'd say like a maroonish brown sort of tone there around the eye. Then we have a red that circles right around the eye, a yellow and a black pupil. The eye is very sloppily painted. You can see that yellow absolutely extends out way further than the eye itself. So there's that, I guess. Once you open the mouth, we do have a tongue sculpted out in here and a reddish tone for the inside of the mouth, except on the upper side, which is just a green. But we also have the teeth sculpted, and you can very clearly see that this is a Mattel T-Rex head sculpt. Looks like maybe they had altered it a little bit. I can't say for sure, but it definitely looks slightly different. Like, this area looks raised, so I don't know if maybe they've like digitally altered the figure, but it looks like they have. But the teeth are a little bit sloppy as far as the paint mark, but for the most part they're okay. As you move back into the neck, you actually start to pick up a dark gray patterning moving along the back. You can see that that kind of just like patterns all over the place. We continue to have that light, vibrant green kind of striping down through the center of the figure. And I knew my camera was going to have a fit because it's green. You can see a few skin wrinkles as well as some decent skin texture as you move down. As we lead into the arms, this is where things get a little tricky, because as we lead down, first of all, we have nice musculature and everything in the arms, but we have 3 fingers for the dinosaur, so I don't know which figure from Mattel that they would have stolen these arms from, if in fact that area is even from a Mattel figure, which it very well could be. But we obviously have 3 fingers, even though this is very much so a Tyrannosaurus head. We also have painted claws, though, which is nice, and the claws have a bit of a gloss coat, but the entire figure almost has a little bit of like a satiny shine to it. We do continue to have that light tone moving along the underside, which at least is nice to see, something that we don't always get from Mattel. As we move up, again, the skin texture looks pretty decent moving through the body. I would say the body is definitely the Mattel T-Rex body. It really looks like it to me. And then we move further back into the body. We continue to have that darker gray patterning, but that does actually end before we lead out into the tail. Leading down into the legs, you can see we have nice muscle definition, some pretty vibrant scales. The legs actually have some of the best detail that I've seen on any of these figures. We do also have some osteoderms popping up here and there. You have the kneecap there in the front, the calf muscle in the back, and then we move down into the foot sculpt, and it looks like it could have been a, you know, fairly generic Mattel T-Rex foot sculpt as well. Some scoots down the toes, And you do have painted claws. I thought for a second it was going to be an alternate piece that was put in, but no, they're just straight up painted. We do have dew claws, but no paintwork, sadly. And then we move out into the tail, and then once we reach the tail is absolutely the tail of the Carnotaurus, just like we had on the Indominus Rex version of these figures. The tail is, again, exactly the same, and very, very obviously the tail of the Carnotaurus. I love that, like, as you lead down, there's no osteoderms, nothing like that. But once you hit the tail, you've got those rows of osteoderms like you see on the Carnotaurus. So it doesn't really match too well with the rest of the body. But you have more of that light green that actually does extend out into the tail. Other than that, though, we just basically have that same primary green of the figure. The light tone of the underside does end as you lead out there very abruptly. And then, of course, you'll see pretty much the same thing over here as what we had seen on the first side, except for the fact that we now have tons and tons of screw holes all over the place, and the leg is trailing on this side compared to leading on the other side. The tail is also leaving our direction and kind of heading away from us now on this side, but it's still interesting. As far as the articulation goes, again, we saw the jaw articulation. We also have neck articulation, but just like with the Indominus version, I think that's all going to tie into the tail because the tail moves, and I think that's going to operate the articulation of this area. It does also look like we have arm articulation, but they're not going anywhere, so I don't know if maybe that's part of the action feature as well. Do we have leg articulation? Yes, we do. It is super jerky and super loud. That's actually a little smoother over there. But as you can see, it is a little bit limited. It doesn't have a whole lot of range of movement. Looks like we'd have swivel ankles, but we actually don't. So, interesting, I guess. As we come back here, again, we do have the ability to move the figure, I think, with the tail. So, you move the tail. Once you twist it to the right, it kind of opens its mouth and lifts its head up, which we can see, and snaps once you let it back down. Doesn't move at all toward the left, so the tail can only go toward the right. It can also go up and down, kind of wiggle a little bit, but it doesn't turn to the left, it only turns to the right. And then we do also have a button under here which will, or at least it should activate like a little light in the back of the throat, and also maybe some roars. So let's go ahead and do that. Interesting. I like that the tail moves with it as well. That's actually kind of cool, but it's a little different from what you get from Mattel. So you can operate the tail and everything manually, but obviously it's probably better to just kind of push the button and let the button do all the work. As far as a size goes, it's fairly decently sized. I don't know if it's exactly in the same size range as a standard Mattel T-Rex, but for a length from the snout to the tail, about 16 inches, almost on the dot, or about 40.5 centimeters. And then for a height to the back of the neck, just shy of 6.5 inches, or around 16.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being, next to our crazy bootleg T-Rex-ish, or whatever the heck it is, figure. And you can see, again, it does have a pretty nice size to it. Definitely not huge, but by no means is it small. For another size comparison, we also have the Extreme Damage, aka like the Extreme Chompin size range T-Rex from Mattel, and you can see that that is slightly larger than this figure. And although this is obviously down in a quadrupedal pose, here is a gigantic Trackers figure with the Siamosaurus next to this, whatever it is, T-Rex-ish thing, and you can see that that one is fairly similar in size, I would say. So this figure, I think, sits pretty much in the gigantic Tracker size range. And then we've got the Indominus-ish thing next to the T-Rex-ish thing. So basically both of the figures in this line next to each other, and as you can see, they are pretty much the same size. They do sit pretty much in the same size as each other, so two pretty cool figures, honestly. So what I like about these figures is they're not like your standard everyday sort of bootleg where they basically just try to take a Mattel figure and then dress it up in a way where it still looks like it is a Mattel figure, and they can fool people and, you know, trick you into buying something that's not actually official. Whereas these guys, basically, I don't know what company it is that even created these, but they went ahead and took numerous different Mattel figures and then bootlegged them and then made like a weird mashup and just sort of combined different pieces into one dinosaur. So it's almost like they made some crazy hybrid. And this one is pretty pretty cool as well, though I think this one isn't quite as crazy as the Indominus one. This one has more of like a traditional T-Rex look with like Allosaurus arms and a Carnotaurus tail, but it is still interesting overall. I do really quite like the colors actually on it. I think the color scheme is pretty fun and quite appealing to the eye. The colors are also fairly natural, I would say, minus the eye area, which is pretty much a disaster. The paintwork isn't all that sloppy, except in the teeth and the eyes either, so that's pretty decent. And we do have painted claws and everything, except the dew claw. Even the bootlegs don't get that treatment. But we do, of course, also have screw holes, which is never a good thing for any figure, and they do look terrible on this one as well. There's also a little bit of articulation, but that's also quite limited, a little bit of an action feature, but it works best when you actually just use the button and kind of make the dinosaur basically just move on its own, and I think it does look pretty cool and does have a little bit of a difference from your standard Mattel figures. So if you are interested in this, again, I don't know where to tell you to actually go for it, because this was found by Hikigane Creatures in her country. I don't know exactly where you can find the figure outside of where she lives at a local store. So if I can find somewhere to link you guys to, I absolutely will. But if not, at least you know of its existence and you can keep an eye out for it if it pops up somewhere. Again, pretty darn weird figures, but still kind of cool. And again, one massive thank you to Hikigane Creatures, one of the most talented human beings on the planet, for helping me to get a hold of these crazy, crazy figures. And again, if you can find them, pick them up and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.